What an absolutely glorious day today. It is stunning. I'm so glad that I came a little bit further afield than what I usually do. I'm at quite a special piece of land and I've not taken you around here before, so I'm just going to spend the next couple of hours having a little peruse because I have seen quite a few fruits in the trees and lots of herbs starting to dry on the ground. So let's take a little walk and we'll see what we can find today. First stop on my walk is this beautiful stand of greater reed mace, and this is such a useful plant. It's probably one of the best plants to use in a survival situation. It can give you food, fire and shelter as well. And I've come to visit this patch first because I want to be harvesting the leaves and I want to harvest some of my lighter crops first because I have spied some apples and some pears over by the entrance, but I didn't want to carry around big old baskets of apples for the next couple of hours. So I knew that this stand was here and I want to be collecting some leaves to make mats with. The leaves can be woven and made into kind of like mats and baskets and bowls and even shelters like little makeshift tarps as well. So it's a really, really useful plant and it is edible as well. The underground rhizomes are really starch rich and they can be made into flour and also into like a syrup as well. The young shoots, the leaves can be eaten, they can be eaten raw or kind of like blanched or lightly cooked. And also the inner pith of the stems as well, when they're super young, the lower portions of the stem can kind of be peeled off and the inside has sort of like this quite fresh, melony, cucumbery tasting pith inside and it's quite delicious. Other than that, you've also got the seed heads, and when these are immature, when they're green, they can be eaten like corn on the cob, which is pretty interesting. And in the spring they also get a yellow pollen on them and that can kind of be tapped off and added into your flour just to enrich it. And then once these are mature, so you can see how these are brown and they're starting to mature, they make an excellent, excellent flash tinder. So let me show you one that's already opened up. There's one here that's already started to open up, and can you see the really fluffy seed heads? And these are super fascinating. So the way they reproduce, when they fall down and they fall on dry ground, the seed heads kind of like stay open just in case the wind can pick them up and take them to somewhere more suitable. So what they're looking for is wet ground. So when these touch water, the little fluffy bits sort of close and it allows the seed to drop, and then that sinks into the water and allows it to germinate. So it's really, really fascinating. You can get lesser reed mace as well, which is a much shorter plant and it's got thinner leaves, and also the gap between the male and the female flowers. So this is actually all starting to come off now, but you can see this spike on the top of the flower. This is the male flower and this is the female flower. On lesser reed mace there's a big old gap in between the flowers, so that's one way you can tell, but they are much smaller. But this is a really, really lovely little stand and I'm going to be gathering some leaves now. What have we got down here? It's a bit nibbled, but it looks quite stocky still. Oh, it's nice and firm. Oh, look at that. It's quite chunky for a leccinum. This is Leccinum scabrum or brown birch bolete, and all leccinums have got these scales on the stipe. Can you see that there? And yeah, all leccinums are edible. And this is the brown birch bolete and it's growing under this young birch tree. It's a little stand of birch here. So that is a nice little find, and it's still pretty damn firm. It's got a couple of nibbles on it, but it's definitely worthy of the basket. So I'll pop that in. And I did get some elderberries and some mugwort as well. And I did drop off my greater reed mace at the car just because I wasn't too far, and it was getting really windy and I was getting blown around everywhere. It was acting as a sail. So I dropped that off at the car and I've come back here just to see if I can find any more mushrooms under this birch trees. I absolutely love it when I see both the flower and the fruit out at the same time, and it's not usually so often with rose, but yeah, the rose hips are just starting to come into their own now, and they're starting to soften up. We had a frost last night, and I reckon after a couple more frosts these will be perfect for picking. So vitamin C was actually discovered in this plant, and it does contain a hell of a lot, much more than your oranges, which is usually your most touted source of vitamin C. But rose hips, absolutely beautiful. And when they're ripe as well, you can just squeeze out the flesh. It's got such a nice little tropical flavour. Right, I've just seen a birch belly, but I can't get to it because of all the hawthorn and the rose. And the hawthorn is quite big here. I can see it there though, but all of this hawthorn is just... I'm just going to go through. Oh no, I can't. Oh, try this way. It doesn't matter. I can see there's a brown birch bolete down there, but it's already been knocked over and it looks quite rotten. So I'm not gonna impale myself on hawthorn just to have a look at a mushroom that I know is not going in the basket. So let's press on. Just fired a mushroom cap on the floor. That is a milk cap, and I had a little rummage around to find some more, and I did. There's quite a few here, so I just picked this one to show you and to see what it was myself. It's got this white kind of milk that exudes out of the gills, and can you see this fluffy margin? This is the bearded or downy milk cap, and it can look quite similar to the more common woolly milk cap, but the woolly milk cap is much more of a strong salmon pink colour with concentric rings, and the bearded milk cap or the downy milk cap is a lot paler. So you can see on all of these, even the young ones, it's a lot paler than the woolly milk cap. But both are poisonous, so not one for the basket. The fluffy margin and the pale colour are good features for the bearded milk cap. It's not the most common of mushrooms, but when you do find one, you can usually find quite a few in the same patch, and they're ectomycorrhizal with birch trees. They usually grow with fairly young birch trees, and they like to grow on damp grassland and heathland, just like this. This is quite a wet patch of floor, and the whole of it is covered in this red sedum all along, and it's just coming into flower now. How cute is this little posy? Sweet clover can be used as a herb in salads. It's got a slightly vanilla-y taste, so it's often used to make tea as well. And it's actually an anticoagulant, so it lengthens the time that it takes for your blood to clot. So it shouldn't be eaten if you're on blood thinners like warfarin. But it's a pretty little flower to find. This is a nice healthy clump of it here, so I might take some of this. I've been looking for a patch of this still in flower because I keep just finding the empty heads, but this is self-heal, and it's a beautiful little plant, traditionally used for stomach issues, so like Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. It's also used as an edible herb, and you can make it into tea or dry it into powder for use. It looks like somebody's tried to burn this big old stand of Japanese knotweed here. I'd be interested to come back in February, March and see if it made a difference. I don't think it would somehow. This is Angelica sylvestris, or wild Angelica, and it's a member of the Apiaceae family, or the carrot family. It has these beautiful white umbels of flowers, and it grows quite tall too. The stem is hollow and ridged and hairless, and that's quite a good indicator to help you tell the difference between common hogweed, which has quite a furry or hairy stem. The flowers are often candied too, or battered and deep fried, and the seeds are really delicious. I've always got a jar of Angelica seeds, and I use them in baking or on top of salads. It's quite a distinctive member of the Apiaceae family. It's got these leaves that I think look quite similar to rose leaves. The leaves emerge from a fleshy sheath that's often tinged with purple, and the stem's sometimes got a purple colouring as well. It's a plant that likes damp feet, and you can often find it next to riverbanks or streams or in damp woodlands, but you can also find it in hedgerows as well, so it isn't too fussy, but it does prefer a little bit of shade where it can get it. This is a lovely patch of wild carrots, sometimes called Queen Anne's lace, but that is also a name of the cow parsley in America as well, so it's best to go by the Latin name of Dorcas carota. This is obviously another member of the carrot family, or the Apiaceae family, and again this is quite a distinctive member once it's flowered. When the flowers are yet to fully open, they have this beautiful kind of bird's nest structure, and that's a really good way of being able to tell it apart from other flower umbels. When it opens, you can often find a single red flower right in the centre, and that's another really good indicating feature of the wild carrot. But this is a beautiful edible. Obviously you can eat the taproot, although it's quite small. They can be quite sweet in their first year, but they do tend to get quite woody in their second years, so it's best to harvest these quite young. The flowers are also edible, and they can be candied and used as a decoration or a garnish or a salad topping. And the leaves are edible as well. They've got a really fresh kind of like a carrot parsley type flavour to them, and they can be chopped up and used as a garnish just as you would with carrot tops. And also the seeds are really delicious as well. They've got kind of like a spicy, peppery, carroty flavour, and they go really well in curries and stews. So you need to be 100% sure that you've got wild carrot. Don't ever just hope that you've got wild carrot. Be 100% sure, because there are members of the Apiaceae family that will kill you. So hemlock is a very poisonous plant that does or can look fairly similar. I will link a video to that in the description. Just found the first little flush of the year for these little guys. Hello. This little wildflower here is yellow-toed flax, and it's a medicinal plant. It's used for urinary infections, and you can also apply it directly to the skin for rashes, wounds, insect bites and things like that. It's really pretty. Wow. Oh my god, that is beautiful. It's starting to get dark now, but look what I've just seen. Oh my god. Look at that.